Welcome to Energy Talks, a regular podcast series with expert discussions on power system testing topics. My name is Scott Williams from the podcast team at Omicron, and I will be your host. In this episode, we are going to talk about medium voltage circuit breaker testing. For example, how does it differ from high voltage testing? What are the typical tests and how often should they be performed? As well as what should you consider during offline as well as in-service testing. With me to discuss this topic is Florian Fink, Omicron Product Manager for Industrial and Distribution Power Grid Applications, and also a specialist in the area of medium voltage circuit breaker testing. Florian was recently a guest in our episode number 14, where he talked about mastering the challenges faced by power grids. Florian, welcome back to Energy Talks.
Hello, Scott. Great to be here again.
Thank you again for being here with us. Florian, what is your connection to circuit breaker testing? Is there a particular area that you have focused on?
So when I was working in the medium voltage industry and distribution grid, I've seen circuit breaker testing many times because it's an important asset. And also here at Omicron, we have one team caring especially about circuit breaker testing, which they are focused mostly on high voltage, but also medium voltage circuit breakers and doing very deep analysis. So they are very professional with that. But I've also seen customer using the CMC as circuit breaker analyzer.
Florian, what types of tests are performed on circuit breakers in the field?
So as I mentioned before, we have this full feature test where you go very deep in the analytics, like contact resistance measurements, timing measurements, motor current trip coil analysis, the supply verification, the motion measurements, and furthermore, so going very deep into every corner of the circuit breaker. But we see also very simple contact timing checks. And yeah, that's mostly a big difference doing just a quick check or doing very deep analysis.
Okay. When are circuit breakers tested? Are they already tested in the factory throughout their service life into the field, or are we focusing here on field testing?
So, of course, there's a factory acceptance test. When the circuit breaker is manufactured, it's getting tested by the manufacturer initially. And this is also one fingerprint over the life cycle of the circuit breaker. So all the tests later on are tested against this fingerprint. And then we are going to the field, and then it depends a little bit on the regulation or standards in which interval the circuit breaker is tested. And then also depending what is testing, how critical the circuit breaker is.
Okay. Florian, please tell us this distinction between high voltage and medium voltage circuit breaker testing. Is there a major difference?
Yes, of course, due to the voltage level, we have also different constructions and sizes. So in high voltage areas, we have often single phase constructions. It's very high sensitive equipment. So when a circuit breaker would fail, we have a lot of power outages. And yeah, we have also there bigger distances, for example, to protection due to the yards where the circuit breakers are installed. When we're talking about medium voltage circuit breakers, they are much more compact. Often they are three-phase constructed, and they are very close to protection and current transformers. And the numbers are much higher due to the much higher numbers of base in the medium voltage grid.
Okay. Florian, which tests are important and how often should they be performed on medium voltage circuit breakers?
As I said before, it depends, of course, on the criticality of a circuit breaker. So that's one point. The other point is it depends on the standards or national laws or the state of the art. So we have the simple timing test and contact resistance test, which are very important. And then it depends on the circuit breaker construction and experiences, which tests are performed in detail.
Okay. Florian, in your opinion, what is important to consider when testing circuit breakers?
In principle, it's better to do a quick check than doing nothing. So having a check of the circuit breaker that he is in principle working is a good thing. And a quick check gives early indication if something has a problem here. Just a quick timing check gives you some indication if you have further problems in the circuit breaker. And a circuit breaker which can't be operated gives always headache. Of course, if he would not trip, you could have damages in the power grid. But also, if you can't switch it off, you have a problem and often have to switch off bigger grid units.
What are the challenges testing engineers have been facing, and how do you help them solve these challenges?
So what is a big challenge, and it's very important as we have not so much space principle for this construction of substations. The substation much more often get gas insulated. And for example, gas insulated medium voltage switch gears have the circuit breaker into the gas area, so you can't access them directly. And we have possibilities with our Cibano or CMC to do an in-service measurement on the voltage-based timing measurement, so with the VTM method we are using here. The other fact is that most of our customers are faced with time, cost, and manpower. What we are doing or can provide is a combination of a protection test with a quick check of a, for example, medium voltage circuit breaker with a CMC, or also very simple check with a battery-driven Compano device we have.
Florian, what is the difference between an in-service measurement and an offline measurement?
In medium voltage switch gears, which are air insulated and modular, the circuit breaker can be pulled out and you can do very detailed measurement in a circuit breaker out of the switch gear itself. So you don't need to switch off the whole switch gear itself. You can have the circuit breaker insulated in front of the switch gear. In a gas insulated switchgear, this is often not that easy possible. So you still have the bus bar under voltage. So the circuit breaker is fixed installed and you can't access the terminals of the circuit breaker directly for a measurement.
Mm-hmm.
So here we need different kinds of measurement methods.
Florian, what have you learned most about testing circuit breakers in the field?
So it's very good to have here our application experts team, which is caring about circuit breakers, even also in the high voltage grid. From them, I learned a lot. And it's very helpful to have these colleagues here. And also what's always inspiring, talking with customer about real world scenarios and what they have learned about their lifetime in the power grid. When we talk about testing, there's a reason why we test. It's not because we like to do testing. Often there's a reason behind that some parts are failing or something had not worked as expected. It always depends a little bit on the circuit breaker, but every kind of its art have special failure scenarios. And it's a component which is in motion and a mechanical component. So therefore, there we have also, after some time, some damage on it.
Florian, how is Omicron involved with circuit breaker testing? Which solutions do you work with the most, for example?
So we, as I said before, we have experts on different voltage levels and caring about these different kinds of circuit breakers. So we have different solutions for different applications available. I personally work mostly with a CMC because I'm also mostly active in the medium voltage applications and protection. Here we have the advantage that the circuit breaker, protection, and CT is close together. And mostly the guys working in the medium voltage area caring about the whole switch gear, so not individual components only. So here it's very important, as always, that the whole fault clearing chain is working together. And here it's also very easy to do a primary injection and verify that current transformer, circuit breaker, and protection is working hand in hand.
Okay, great. Florian, what are the advantages of using these solutions for circuit breaker testing?
So when we talk about the Cibano, it's really a tool optimized for circuit breaker testing. So when you are testing high numbers, when you need an independent supply or would you like to do detailed analysis, the Cibano is really the right tool of choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's great also if you have high voltage circuit breaker, because we have distributed setups where you can place the different components very close together. So it's very modular and powerful. On the other hand, we have for the more simple tests CMC available, which can perform as a circuit breaker analyzers for very quick checks in combination with a protection test.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the Compano available. It's a very lightweight and battery-driven solution for very simple checks. It has also micrometer integrated. You can perform a very quick check, for example, also in the low voltage area.
Okay, interesting. How is the measurement data collected and analyzed with these solutions, and what does the data indicate about the circuit breaker?
So when we are talking about Cibano, the tool of choice for circuit breaker testing, we have the PTM database. In this database, you can store all the results you have measured with your Cibano. And we have also there a circuit breaker library integrated where we have specified tests for the most famous circuit breakers. And we have also their default data. And the PTM data sync is great for sharing this data all over the teams. So not entering data twice and having this data always available for everybody in the team. For the CMC and the Compano, as this is more manual testing method, of course, we have reporting possibilities of the measurements. But these are mostly quick checks you can perform here and see if the circuit breaker is working in principle.
Florian, what do you see as future trends in circuit breaker testing? What should be considered?
So what we see at the moment is the grid expansion. As I talked about it in the last podcast, we have this decarbonization going on and more electricity is coming. So therefore, this grid expansion is coming. And therefore, we're seeing an increasing number of medium voltage and low voltage circuit breakers. So therefore, also here the testing number will increase. At least the commissioning will increase here. It's one very critical component which is active in the power grid and also should be tested. And as it is a mechanical component, it's a component where we can see some damage after years in service.
You had mentioned the important tests needed to check circuit breakers in the field. How often should these checks be performed? You mentioned that checks are better than doing nothing. Is there a regularity to the frequency?
As I said before, it depends on the regulation and standards. But as protection is in most of the countries tested around 4 or 5 years, it could be performed also a quick check of the circuit breaker together with a protection check. So there you see directly the timing. And with the CMC also possible, not testing also only the auxiliary contacts, also testing the main contacts. And there you see the synchronization of these contacts, if this is everything fine, and you get early indications. Detailed analysis of the circuit breaker have higher intervals but it depends to the standards.
How long do these tests take when you perform them?
So a quick check, it depends always a little bit on a situation, but it could take minutes. So we have, I would say it could be done when the bay is already out of service and you have tested, for example, the protection before. You can do it, I would say in 15 minutes.
Okay. And as part of a time-saving factor, these measurements are performed with equipment that also performs the protection testing. Is that correct? Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct. So the only thing is a little bit of wiring in addition needed. So you can depend on the measurement you're doing. If you're doing at a circuit breaker out of service, you have to wire the main contacts, the binary inputs of the circuit breaker to the CMC, and then you can perform the test. Of course, you can use a prepared template for that. And if you do it in service, it's even more easy. Then you connect to the voltage measurement system of the circuit breaker and wire this to the binary signals and then perform the test. So it's using the same setup, and you even can trigger the circuit breaker by the protection. So you did it before the protection check, and it's just another trigger you are using in this case. So the only excuse I see sometimes for the customers focusing more on protection, they say, I don't really know this asset in detail. But for a quick timing check, it's really easy. Just try it, and you will see the results. And if you test multiple circuit breakers, you will get also a feeling for the timing. So normally you get, for example, 50 milliseconds for many bays in a row. And once you will recognize there is a different timing, you will face, okay, there I need to go maybe with an expert or ask a manufacturer and go a little bit deeper in the analysis.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Florian, where can our listeners learn more about circuit breaker testing?
So we have a lot of application notes available in our customer area. So everybody with Omicron equipment or Omicron software can sign up here and get these data for free. We also offer a lot of trainings, for example, for our Cibano or for our CMC, where a customer can also dive deeper into the topic. And we have also webinars and also recording of these webinars on our website available, or just contact me.
Okay. Now, these trainings and webinars are available through Omicron Academy.
Yes.
And there, you don't necessarily have to be an Omicron customer to attend. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, we offer them, as we have, our motto is sharing knowledge. And we offer this also to a wide audience. So you can sign up also for these webinars if you're not an Omicron customer, if you're just interested in this topic and we like to share our knowledge here.
Okay, very good. And of course, our listeners can find more information about these trainings and webinars on the Omicron website under training. Florian, thank you for coming back to speak with us about medium voltage circuit breaker testing and sharing your experiences and insights.
Thank you very much, Scott.
It's always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you again. And a big thank you to our audience for listening to this episode of Energy Talks. We always welcome your questions and feedback. Simply send us an email to podcast@omicronenergy.com. Omicron has several years of experience in power system testing, including, of course, circuit breaker testing, and it offers you the matching solution for your application. For more information about our testing solutions, as well as online courses and webinars offered by Omicron Academy, please visit our website at omicronenergy.com. Please join us to listen to the next episode of Energy Talks. Goodbye for now, everyone.